Well, hi there, everyone. Here we are, back in the saddle after the debacle. So, just generally lot to catch up on. So, one astute viewer mentioned one of the reasons the job figures are so good is because so many people have two jobs. I thought this is a very good point. So, I'm going to use that in my teaching. So, thank you so much, viewer. It's a very obvious point that gets overlooked. But what I'd like to concentrate on today is, you know how the language around protesters has turned into the mob. Democrats mean rule by the mob, and protesters are put down as hysterical screamers into elevators and name-calling. So, sorry, they're Americans voicing their displeasure with Republicans' regressive policies and placements. But this has a history, and as a sociologist, we always look at the history of an issue. So I want to look at protests between now and the midterms. But a quick look back, if those of you who can remember the Vietnam moratorium marches, and exactly the same language, possibly even more vicious. So it was described again as the mob, but people who were protesting were seen as unemployed parasites on society. They were traitors to their country who were too gutless to go to war. Dreadful things were said, and families were divided. You know, some families kicked their kids out for protesting and so forth. And protesting takes courage, and people stuck with it, and eventually the tide turned. It was exactly the same with the civil rights marches. It took enormous courage to stand up to the Klan, police with dogs, a whole government determined to stick by segregationism, and people hung in, you know, they hung in. The suffragettes fighting for the women's vote in many countries. But the argument was, it was obvious women had smaller brains. It was perfectly obvious that these were sluts and whores and bad daughters and bad mothers and bad wives and couldn't possibly understand the complexities of politics. Familiar? Okay. So the point is that protest has a long history, and change doesn't come without protest, and protest doesn't come without endurance and ability to come back from setbacks. So I thought it's a good morality tale for looking at this reading. So go the protesters. This is a tribute to them. So let's look at protests between now and the midterms. We're down to the last month or so. Protests. Let me just pull you down here, viewers. So we'll see protests between now and the midterms. All right, yes, pain. No doubt there's pain. Big money. Queen of Cups looking after people. The Lovers, that's kind of nice. Okay, in the centre, what do we have? Well, this may astonish you, viewers. Money and greed. Power and corruption. Filthy rich men wanting to preserve their power, money, and status. We're not talking here about all men. We're talking about the very elite men. We're also talking, this to me speaks very closely to the sheer hypocrisy of Republicans in red states where people are struggling. They're struggling with housing, they're struggling with healthcare, and they're struggling with the opioid crisis. And yet they manage to say to people, vote for me because I understand. I understand you. So I think what we're witnessing generally, viewers, it's like the end of an entire cycle of politics and into the new. So this is the old guard. They're very quick to stick the knives in, as they've done. Just the language they've been using. They're using all conservative radio stations, print media, conservative television, stick the sword into the protesters. You know that. So, the tone of the reading is set by the Four of Cups. An offer that is not necessarily wanted. Now, is this by the protesters or by those who are reviling the protesters? But a secondary interpretation of the Four of Cups that gets forgotten is it's a re-evaluation of values and principles. So that springs to my mind in this context. So it is about an re-evaluation. So what is anchoring the protest movement? Love. There's a lot of love out there, and don't let them rob you of the love. This terrible time has brought many Americans together. And viewers, I want to thank you all. Your comments have been fantastic, and I think you're providing really good support to each other, and I'm sure you do it in other social spaces as well. It is so important to channel that anger. It's so important. So this is the love. Another love card coming up, the Queen of Cups. So what I call my Lady Diana card. So just a second, fiddling with this screen. Cups are emotion, and I call it Lady Diana. The figure actually looks like Diana. There's kind of a sadness about the figure on some level because she cares so much. And it was the same with Diana, who was so radiant, but when you saw her in repose, sometimes she cared. This is people who care, and this is a leading woman who cares. It's a very watery card. It is emotion, and the cups on the emotion. The emotions, to a certain extent, have to be held in check because of all that viciousness that's out there. But to know the love is there, and what Lady Di achieved, we called her in Australia, instead of Princess Di, we called her Lady Di. So I always go back to that. One of her lasting achievements, a lifetime legacy, was how she engaged with HIV patients. She first was married to Charles at a time when the HIV crisis was truly terrible, and thousands of people were dying every week. People were losing huge friendship networks. Doctors and nursing staff, even though they should have known better and should have been better educated at the time by the actual seniors in hospitals, they were wearing spacesuits when they were treating AIDS patients and making people really quite traumatized. So, and it was Lady Di who went and held their hands, and that said to the medical staff, it said to the families, it said to the rest of the world, this is not how you catch HIV. You can hold people's hands. You can love your loved ones. It's okay. She did that. So I think that little mini reading is about the love. Aww. So I think that's very timely. So let's all, anyone who wants to, I'm going to light a candle tonight for the Princess Di. Bless her and her tolerance and love. Should be an inspiration to us all. So go, Diana. That's what I'm going to do tonight. Now, moving through these different races in different states, I thought I'd have a look at Arizona. I have looked at something in Arizona. I can't remember what it was. Maybe it was just on my list. Oh, no, I did, of course. It was Sinema versus McSally. So now I want to look at this senatorial race because Paul Gosar, I love this story. He has 9 siblings. There's 10 kids. And of those 9 siblings, 6 have come out against their brother as a Republican candidate and as a bad candidate. And they've made the TV ads in their various capacities as, you know, a lawyer and a nurse and whatever. Hi, this guy's really bad, vote for the opposition. And then they confess at the end of the ad they are his brothers and sisters. So let's have a look at what's happening for Gosar. Dave Gosar. It's such a mad story. It's such a mad story. But it shows how truly awful he must be if 6 of your siblings come out. Mom still supports him, but that's it. Okay, so Dave Gosar. Arizona. What does he get with these cards? Yes, he's in a war. He's dancing to his own tune. Sorry, viewers, I forgot to bring you down while I was getting them up. Now, on top, this is the same card as the Lady Di card. This is the Queen of Tides version of it. So this is, again, emotions and love and a very feminine energy on top of him. I think that represents coming from such a huge family. Right. And it could well be his mother who does still support him. Oh, bless Mom. You know you're sunk if Mum goes the other way. But to me, it's more the energy of the whole family in this. Well, who is he in this story? He's the Stranger of Fire, or the Knight of Wands. So he, what can you say? He's always been the stroppy one. He's always been the firebrand in the family. Out of all those kids, he's always been the firebrand. He was Tea Party. He was Bertha. You know, he actually backed that Bertha controversy, which is apparently when a few of the Sibs stopped talking to him. Okay. He likes to fight. He's in a war, but that doesn't throw him. He's in for the battle. And he dances to his own tune. Right. There's also another element to this card in the Japarizi deck, which is playing to the gallery. So in a place like Arizona, he can milk that. But he is in a dogfight. Who's his opposition, do we know? Oh, he's up against David Brill. I'll have a look at him in a moment. So, there's Gosar. I'm sure his siblings, if they saw these cards, would go, yep, that's him. Always dance to his own tune. So let's have a look at his opposition, the Democrat David Brill. All these races are so important. Let's have a quick look at David Brill. How are things going for him going up against Gosar? David Brill, tell me about the Democrat. Tell me about David Brill. Okay, volcano here. 6 of winds. 5 cards, 3 of swords. He has to be careful. He, okay, I don't know anything about David Brill, but he's sitting on a volcano. So there's a lot riding on this race. Okay. He gets two queens, which is interesting, older women. So in his past, the Queen of Gardens, that's a woman in his life who earthed him, who gave him his political values. It may have been a mother or an aunt, but I'm thinking more, I've got more of a vibe of a teacher. You're not a Democrat in Arizona usually, unless I guess you've come from a Democrat family. So there is a family influence, but one teacher hugely influenced him. Okay. On top of the reading, he wasn't entirely convinced that he was going to run or to run again. He wasn't entirely convinced. He had to be talked around. Right. So this is the card of rowing away to protect your family from the volcano. That was his original impulse. But then the Queen of Swords comes in. His sense of social justice is immense. And that's what drove him to compete. He just felt it was really important. What I get from him is he's fiery, he's passionate, he's committed, but he's not an egomaniac. So when I say he felt he was the best man to run against Gosa, it's not like he's saying, oh, I'm fantastic and I can beat anybody and it's me, me, me. It's not that. He thought Gosa is such a disaster that he would have to throw his hat into the ring. So here we have the Page of Swords. He has to be careful because he's sitting on a volcano, and there's also the spy card here. We know the Democrats have not been the purest party in the history of the world. It's not that they haven't done some dodgy deals, God knows. But the GOP are going to pull all the stops out. And my advice to him, David Brill, would be make sure everything is airtight. Trust no one. Make sure it's airtight. Okay, so now I'm just going to do a quick head-to-head with them. So, who's going to prevail? Paul Gosa or David Brill? Paul Gosa, David Brill. It's going to be Gosa on the left and Brill on the right. Oh, Gosa versus Brill. Gosa versus Brill. There we go. Oh, I'm pleasantly surprised. Gosa gets the 10 of Swords, or the 10 of Winds, Twilight setting. Nana, very Twilight Zone card. There's been a corrupt act that could be exposed here. Brill gets the 2 of Fire or the 2 of Wands. Looking to the future, a man of competence, bit of light in the sky. Oh, God, I hope. Oh, please. All right. So, everyone also, please be aware, the whole Kavanaugh debacle has had ripple effects through the psychic clairvoyant community too. You know, we get upset too, you know. And so it's really important to understand we do this with love. We give it our best shot. We read the energy of things. Right? Now, having said that, I just want to share a little thought. And it was a lawyer friend who said it to me, and it gave me comfort, so I hope it gives comfort to you. When I come across to you, usually I appear as serene Lena, occasionally the cranky auntie. However, I usually try and aim for the big picture. And as I was screeching and writhing to one of my lawyer friends about what was happening, and he said, this is a blessing in disguise. He said, just think for a moment, what would have happened if Kavanaugh's nomination was shot down, or voted down. And of course, well, we would have been ecstatic for 24 hours, that's for sure. And then he talked me through, and I think he's right, viewers. He talked me through what would have happened then. The Republicans would have gone apeshit like we have never seen before. They would have been busing people to every polling station in the country. But his point was the most destructive thing that would have happened is they would wipe the FBI. See, now they can't say the FBI because of its stupid, bloody, ineffectual non-investigation. They can't say the FBI is just this terrible Democrat-pushing organisation. They would have undermined the FBI and the whole Mueller investigation. So I'll just leave that thought with you, viewers, and I hope it gives you the comfort it gave me. In the meantime, off we go, onwards and upwards. Bye.